This is the planet Earth, and this is a human. If we would condense the Earth's 4.5 billion years into 24 hours, the amount of time that we humans have spent on this planet would be 3 seconds only. 3 seconds and...
We are hurtling toward the day when climate change could be irreversible.
Rising sea levels already altering this nation's coast.
China's capital is choking in its worst pollution of the year.
5% of species will become extinct.
Sea levels rising, glaciers melting.
The Earth's climate has changed many times before, and it still keeps changing naturally, from the times when it was just a giant ball of gas to the times when it was just water, from volcanoes and fires and dinosaurs to meteors and ice ages. And this could be caused by many natural things like shifts in the Earth's shape of orbit, as sometimes it could be circular and sometimes elliptical, and also by the changes in the Earth's axis of rotation, as the steeper this angle is, the greater the extremes of poles being warmer in the summer and then colder in the winter. Also, plate tectonic processes can form large mountains, and these large mountain chains can influence the changes in the air circulation. And while the oceans are constantly carrying the heat around the Earth and its continents, volcanoes can affect the climate through the gases and dust thrown into the atmosphere. Likewise, the sun is able to emit more energy during its sunspot cycle periods. However, the main cause of climate change is the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere such as water vapor, methane, nitrous oxides, carbon dioxide, and chlorofluorocarbons let the sunlight in, but then keep the heat from escaping. And the more greenhouse gas we have in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, this way strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. And the worse the climate change gets, the worse it gets. For example, while white polar ice helps to keep the planet cool by reflecting the sun's rays back to space, when the ice melts, darker areas absorb more of the sun's heat, which leads to greater warming and in turn to even more ice melting. And same with the forest fires. The more CO2 it releases, the more the global temperature is increased and the more the land is dried out, and then we get even more fires. While these physical causes of global temperature change have always existed, the current warming trend has a greater than 95% probability to be the result of humans. We are the ones whose activities have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. Extreme amounts of the mentioned greenhouse gases are produced as a result of burning fossil fuels for transport, industry, and power, worldwide deforestation while cutting down and burning trees, chlorofluorocarbons that are found in fridges, air conditioning, and aerosols, methane produced from rice fields, atom bomb testing, rubbish dumps. Since the 1880s, the rapid increase in the greenhouse gases has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. Likewise, the year of 2016 has been shown to be the hottest in 139 years. And it's not because the temperature was the same 139 years ago. Actually, 1886 is just the date from which the measurements became available. In fact, carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds and thousands of years. This can be proven through many reconstructed geologic records, for example, from extracted long ice cores. These have many layers representing separate snowfalls, and measuring the chemical makeup of air that has been buried in these long ice cores as gas bubbles of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen allows to calculate the past temperatures back to hundreds and thousands of years. And similarly, analyzing the tree rings can not only reveal the seasonal growth variation by comparing its band thickness between the summers and winters, but it can also determine the years of warm and rainy seasons, likewise the scars from forest fires or the times of cold and stressful conditions. These careful analyzations reveal that 2016 wasn't just the hottest year in 139 years, it truly was the hottest year on the record. However, there are still many people that keep debating and questioning the climate change. First of all, that is due to scope. When in the 1970s people were introduced to the ozone hole problem, we all took action. The sales of aerosol spray products have drastically decreased, and the scientists happily predict that the hole will be healed by around 2050s. However, when dealing with the climate change, stopping to use one product is not enough. Climate change includes everything, from transport to businesses, from food to clothes, from air conditioning to product packaging, and when the problem is this big, it would be so comfortable to believe that it's not true, not to mention different opinions, sources, and messages.
2014 was the planet's warmest year on record. That our activities are changing the climate.
Well, I'm not a big believer in man-made climate change. There could be some impact, but I don't believe it's...
Last but not least is science. Many people believe that the mentioned changes in the shape of the sun's orbit, the axis of rotation, or the sunspots are the reasons for the global warming that was happening for hundreds and thousands of years, and others blame volcanoes and other natural sources, claiming that humans emit only the tiniest fraction of CO2 released into the atmosphere every year. In reality, since 1950s the sun is getting dimmer, and temperatures continue to rise anyway, and while it is true that humans emit less CO2 compared to natural processes, before us the planet was able to keep a balance between the lands and the oceans absorbing equal amounts, and that was for 800,000 years. And not only that, but there are plenty of other signs that the climate is warming, like the sea levels are rising by 3 millimeters a year, the ice on Antarctica and Greenland is melting at extraordinary rates, and the storms are getting stronger and more frequent. And is there anything we can do? Yes, considering the fact that simply turning the thermostat down by 1 degree could save the amount of CO2 that in a year would be able to fill a hot air balloon, or that leaving a computer on overnight for a year creates enough CO2 to fill a double-decker bus, it gets clearer that while politicians, businesses, industry, and communities contribute to the climate change strongly, each of us have a responsibility to take action, as no change is too small, and together we all can make a big difference.